name is Lily Landakusik. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a mom, and I'm one of 22 million alienated family members. And I want to share some exciting news about some of our updates on the documentary and a pilot program that we've been working on. And I first wanted to just share a message of gratitude. So many people have reached out, and it just shows me that we're not alone. And wherever you're at in your journey, if you have an active case or if you have a case that's closed out, your voice matters. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been uplifted by a story, a phone call, a message that says, thank you, this inspired me. And they don't even know that I probably had my head in my hands, wanted to give up at that moment. And so I just want to give that message to anyone out there that feels alone. Get involved with a support group. There's so many amazing activists that are out there, you know, parents and even adult children who went through horrific cases and are standing up and speaking out and reaching out a hand, even if their case is out of their control or they just need to wait for time to heal and bring back their children. They're still finding the strength to reach back and say, let me help you. So I want to just really thank our community. That's made a huge difference in my life. And then I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing so people can follow if they want to use some of the tools that we're doing on their own case or in their own state. We are working on a documentary. We start filming Friday. We've compartmentalized it to address the different areas that are specifically involved in family law cases. So we're breaking it up into focusing on DCFS, CPS, the attorneys, GALs, custody evaluators, but the attorney or counsel category, the DA's office, the ombudsman. I'm trying to think of the other categories, but we're actually going to them in the state of Utah. And I found some evidence on one of our cases that we were working with on Father's Day and had the police respond back that they have a policy since 2018 that they do not enforce court orders. And I just want you to think about that. So we called the police. I've been calling. We've probably done over 60 calls to the police, on behalf of custodial interference and penal codes being broken on a case. And we're always told what you're told. You have to go to court. It's civil. You have to get an attorney. There's nothing we can do. And it's such a script that I just asked, where do you get this from? Who said I have to go to court? Because you don't. You could go get your family and your community and knock on the door and get your child back. You could go see a therapist. You could get a neighbor or a spiritual leader or a coach. You could get resources that would get your child back, but you're told, no, don't do any of that. Trust the court. And if the police are saying it, DCFS is saying it, the school's saying it, the legal systems are saying it, then they have to be right, right? This has been, in my opinion, one of the cruelest, most damaging lies in American history is that you have to get an attorney. So, Voice of Hope and empowermentonline.org, we're trying to create resources for victims to stand up. And we're also looking at major shifts that would offer people an alternative, victims an alternative to say, I have the right to mediation, I have the right to therapy, I have the right to medical evidence-based care, that I don't have to participate in a system that is failing at a point that people are losing their lives or, children being murdered by their own parents. And we're seeing case after case, just this generation of parents being pushed to an edge to believe that if I follow through with one more attorney, if I request a new therapist, a new guardian ad litem, a new judge, if I change my venue, if I do an appeal on the falsified protective order, falsified emotional abuse substantiation. And what we're just finding is the system is failing at every recommendation that is within the court system. We're just not seeing ethical, positive, evidence-based resources or outcomes. And so we started the documentary. And I just again want to thank those of you know, because you talk to me on the phone and keep me going, you know who you are. And those of you who don't and just see me on Voice of Hope, I just want to thank you for all your support. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for our community. I haven't seen my daughter more than maybe 6 hours in the last 5 years. And someday I want to share my story, but it's so similar to all of yours. And I think if our stories are similar, then the failures are similar. And that means the solutions are similar. So here we go. I'm going to share in the comments some resources that we're starting to use for our pilot program, including a grievance template, a trauma screener, and then a script that we're going to start to ask anybody who wants to share their story for the documentary. So I've broken it up into a 1 minute and a 2 minute video, and I'll share more about that this week. But we've started to launch, so I feel like I might as well start sharing about all of this in case it could help anybody else out there, even if there's just one person who watches this and it might help them not go through what I went through. That's why we're doing this. So let me start with a share of some of our materials, and I'll put these in the comments so you can see them. So this one talks a little bit about our pilot program, but this one also is a trauma screener. And I want to invite anybody to use this material if they want to use it with their own therapist or attorney. But it starts to help you look at, are you a victim of trauma related to the family court system? And you can take your time and read over it. I'll just cut to the parts that I was able to thank and credit others who came before me. Karen Huffer, if you're able to look her up on YouTube, she was a whistleblower and she gave out all this information, but none of us have heard of her. So there's a lot of advocates. There's so many right now that are out there that you know of, and I would thank them if anybody's made a difference in your case or listened to you or reached out and said, I care, I'm here, let them know. I mean, the more we build up the community and make sure we're not leaving anybody behind, that we're watching out for any members who are becoming hopeless. I think that's something that is so tangible and concrete in the care of our community that I can't even put words to it. So I want you to look around at anyone who may be experiencing trauma, and you could share this with them. They could certainly talk to their attorney about it, or if they have a therapist, a guardian ad litem. But Karen created this one, and this is a credit to her. And the one below, of course, is the ACE quiz, which is, I think, Vanderbilt with 26,000 participants. So highly evidence-based. And it goes through the screening and how to score it. With the scoring of the ACE, it's really helpful to look on YouTube at videos. Nadine Burke is probably the best about the trauma evidence and the information we have from this ACE screener. It's incredible. In just a nutshell, it can show that people who've gone through severe stress and childhood adverse experiences, and I think Jennifer Harmon is trying to get alienation included as one, which it should be, but they have an average of 20 years less of lifespan. Just shocking statistics on rates of suicide and intravenous drug use, depression. So it's real. If we can stop this to any case in the family law system, to stop these permanently damaging experiences of extreme stress, it can have a preventative outcome that is worth more than, $1 million in treatment to prevent the blocking of a safe and healthy parent, to prevent 8 years, 10 years, 15 years in court and all of the lost damages, time, memories, to prevent all of that and get parents back to following court orders, working together in programs, treatment programs, monitoring programs. They're out there. But most of us have experienced where, just like Karen Huffer's screener, I never found that until years after my case. There's also a PTSD screener, which most people would find that they meet criteria for, and PTSD is very real and also very treatable. But this also has some examples of evidence with penal codes that can be found in every state. These ones are focused on Utah because our documentary is really focusing and asking those heads of the human services departments why this is happening. Why are they not enforcing the court orders? Why are they not enforcing the penal codes? Why are they allowing this to happen where abusers are given full, unrestricted ability to cause permanent damages without any consequences? And why are they not talking about it? So this gives some evidence if people want to look at that. I've highlighted some areas. A lot of people aren't aware that parental alienation is a form of domestic violence. Harassment is also kidnapping, child kidnapping, or aggravated kidnapping. So many cases that I've worked with do fit criteria for kidnapping or potential intent to kidnap. It also goes into other definitions that might be helpful if you're wanting to prove that you have evidence of trauma and crimes and the court is saying there's nothing we can do about it. Well, these are in every state's penal codes. And there's also coding for how law enforcement in the state is supposed to respond. So once you learn your rights about these, you can be very confident when you ask, why isn't this being enforced? Anyone who commits or is convicted of the domestic violence offense described in this section, and then it talks about what their consequence would be and what consequences or offenses against a child would include, and it describes some of the criteria. So when someone says, well, parental alienation doesn't cause child abuse because the child looks fine, but you can see here encouragement of abandonment. And most people have not heard of that as a form of child abuse, intentionally fails to make reasonable arrangements for the safety care. And that would be abandonment, but also it says below anyone who encourages that, encourages or causes the parent or legal guardian of a child to violate this abuse criteria. And then it says below that it's a second-degree felony if it results in harm or if an enterprise commits the child abandonment, if the enterprise encourages, commands, induces by misrepresentation, or causes another to violate. So this is what I'm using in the RICO case, is that the whole system, in my case, in so many of yours, the police, the DCFS, our own attorneys, encouraged abandonment. And some of us were even encouraged because we were so emotional just to terminate our rights. I mean, literally, right? It just is breathtaking and shocking that this is happening to so many millions of cases right now as we speak, are suicidal or hopeless because none of these laws are being enforced anymore. So I wanted to leave you with this, and then I want to cover a couple more very briefly so that you can look at them on your own. This one is a brief outline of our documentary trailer. If you are interested in sharing a script, this talks a little bit about that, but I'm going to do a separate video with an example. But it allows you to kind of see, and for those of you who've been so incredibly supportive and wanted to share, I just right away wanted to say this video is for you. This video is a representation of my commitment that my work is dedicated to all of the victims that won't give up. And so I want your voices to be heard. People need to hear some of these phone calls that I've been so privileged to be with parents who've overcome trauma. They've been able to heal. They've been able to stand up and reunite with their children. They've been able to get into intense advocacy. And I just see people being the change, refusing to let the abuser win and finding a way to stand up in fierceness and love. And so we're asking people if they would be willing to do a 1-minute video. It's going to have a couple of written answers, but the verbal answers would be about your message to the system and your message to your child or children. And then I'll talk a little later about our 2-minute focus, which is going to be actually for these departments, the DCFS, the Guardian ad Litem's office, the district attorney, to really show them that we've got millions of these videos, unfortunately, over and over saying, you directly caused the loss of my, access to my rights, to my constitutional rights, parental rights, access to my child, and access to my ability to protect my child using the laws. And for so many of us, the lack of action and action of the very workers that we were forced to trust were what caused the loss of our relationship with our child. So to me, this is a duty to warn, and that is the name of the documentary. This is a time to warn the victims that haven't lost their child yet, that are going through a divorce, that may experience falsified allegations about their accounts or about affairs, and are honestly not being given prevention information that you are likely to be a victim of parental alienation or some kind of domestic violence by proxy if your spouse is using that at the time of divorce. So this is an opportunity for us to save countless lives in creating prevention, and even before that in prenuptial agreements and educating high school, students, young people about awareness of trauma and being able to, have their own assessment that is able to screen for an abuser, because even AI can do it with language now. And this is kind of an interesting thing to see with some of the work we're doing in our pilot program, is just try putting your communication with a potentially abusive ex-spouse into AI, and it will actually show coercive, controlling, or manipulative, or provoking behavior. So AI is another tool that if you haven't started using that in your case, just do it on your own. Start playing around with it and learning about it, because I think that's going to be the way for the future. And the documentary is going to really emphasize that, solutions in the future, what needs to happen to create alternatives. So this is our video outline. And then I'm also going to put in the um, I'm going to put in the comments grievance example. This one actually has names in it, which I will put an example that doesn't. But this is my case. And so everything that I'm telling you, sharing with you, I'm doing, and I'm scared. But I'm more scared not to do it. So I'm not encouraging anybody to follow in my footsteps, but if there's anybody saying, I would like to do a grievance on a worker that failed my case or perjured or completely lied to the court or did not listen to my child, all on and on, right? That this is an example, and I'll put that one in. And then one other one I wanted to show that I'll put in the comments is this. It's an example of summary of evidence, because we meet so many victims who aren't able really to put into concrete words what were the crimes done to them, what are the penal codes, how do you tell a law enforcement who's saying, no, that didn't happen, no, that's not a crime. So this also includes the litigation abuse screener and the ACE, but it goes down further and adds so much information about the penal codes. So it really lets victims take their grievance letter, and I think this has about 50 pages of evidence of resources and places to complain. And this is powerful, to do a complaint that includes the license of the professional licensing board, which is DOPL in Utah, the Department of Professional Licensing, and then also, their individual licensing association. So for GALs, they have one, the American Bar, the Utah State Bar, for all attorneys, including the district attorney. For police officers, you can go to the police chief and go up, to the ombudsman and the governor. So these do matter. And I've noticed that when we've had active cases, a lot of times we're made to feel afraid that if we, complain, if we speak out, we're going to be gagged, or we'll have our parental rights even more withheld and manipulated. So I wanted to share these resources in the comments, but mainly I wanted to share hope. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you. I'm thinking of all the people out there, and a lot of you, you don't know I follow your stories. And I'm just like, wow, oh my gosh, look at her, or look at him, or I'll get a call. I could tell you about a call next time we meet that happened tonight that was just so exciting. And then I get calls of people just crying. I can't do it anymore. I miss, makes me cry right now. So I just want to say, don't give up. I I don't know how this is going to end, but I know we're going to change it. I know that now. So I wanted to say thank you from Voice of Hope. Thanks for all the support. If people have feedback or any recommendations for the documentary, and those of you who want to be involved, I'll keep sharing. It's the easiest way for me is to probably do videos. And I'll start giving examples of those of you who are participating and how, we're encouraging that you share your stories so that, our message is heard. But I'm excited about Friday and I want to update you all after Friday. The filmmaker is coming to interview the statement from the director's office in Utah on why these crimes of custodial interference, child kidnapping, slander, libel, falsified allegations, blocking access to a child, sometimes permanently, why aren't they considered child abuse? And why aren't they using the ACE screener or any assessment or any fact checking, right? Why aren't they having investigators that are trained to be able to observe and quantify abuse, measure it, screen for it? Why aren't they using forms that are able to fact check instead of vague? These things are preventable now, and we're not seeing any efforts. So we're going to ask directly. So I appreciate everybody. I just want to say, stay strong. Just everything that you've all given to me, I just want to share it with all of you. Find the people that love and care about you and stay close to them. PTSD is real. And a lot of times you can't change it on your own unless you're super strong, so get back out to all the things you love and know you're a part of a huge community and you're a part of a movement that's going to change the world. So see you soon.